Welcome
Welcome
back
back.
to another episode of Lyrically Speaking podcast, where we break down the lyrics to songs we thought we knew, but then as we break them down, we realize we never knew them at all. We didn't. And today we're covering a song, as you'll have seen in the title and the thumbnail, by Chris Brown. But which song
Which
is the
song? There's so
question?
many.
Well, the song was released in 2010, and it was actually the lead single from Chris's mixtape called In My Zone 2, and then it later came from his album Fame. And it didn't do as well as I thought it did because it was everywhere. I mean, it did well, okay, but it would hit
Yeah.
number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100, but I thought it would have gone to number 1.
No, it was more
But it was,
underground in a way. It was more like the urban scene. Like if you knew,
yeah,
you knew. It was that type of thing.
wasn't as mainstream as
Yeah.
as I thought it would be. It did go to number 1 in the R&B and hip hop songs chart. Yeah. And it was certified 3 times platinum. You'll probably guess the song when I say who it features, but it features Tyga and Kevin McCall.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's Deuces, everyone.
Deuces.
The song was written during sort of Chris's career rehabilitation phase. So it was after the 2009 assault involving Rihanna, and I think he was still experiencing some relationship issues. And we're going to talk about it, actually. We're going to cover some similar topics to what we covered in the Will Smith episode.
Okay.
And especially, like what's the healthiest way to deal with issues in a relationship.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into the lyrics. All that BS is for the birds. So what we can deduce is that the lady is telling him something.
Yeah.
And he's just saying, not interested.
Not interested,
basically.
Mate. Give it to the birds, mate.
Then he goes even further and he says, you ain't nothing but a vulture.
Okay.
How would you feel if a guy called you a vulture?
Yeah, I mean, it's not nice, is it? It's not nice, but what it's suggesting, because keep it real. There are some ladies that really are vultures, that really, and there are some people who are like this, and I think it's increasing in this generation, but there are people who really will take you out and then eat the carcass as well. And I think that's what he's really talking about here. This is a lady that's saying a lot, but he's like, listen, you're just a vulture. You tried to take me down, and now you're trying to pick at what's left, and I'm not interested anymore. That's what it sounds like Chris is saying.
Then he goes, always hoping for the worst, waiting for me to F up. You'll regret the day when I find another girl.
Yeah. Wow.
That know just what I need. She know just what I mean. When I tell her, keep it drama free.
Right. There's many things you can think about that, because sometimes people say keep it drama free, but what they call drama is really not drama. It's really just, you need to address some things. You need to look at yourself. Yeah. I'm not bringing drama. I'm just trying to make you see the reality. Yeah. But to be, fair on the other angle, there are some ladies and people, I would say ladies and men, because y'all men be bringing drama too. Let's keep it real. But I think there is some times when it's just too, like, we don't have to nitpick about everything. We have to pick our battles in life. Sometimes it's just not that deep. I personally know that there have been some arguments that I've kicked off, and when I reflect back couple years later, I'm like, you know what, it wasn't that deep. You evolve and you're like, it wasn't that deep. So I can understand this. I'm trying to keep it drama free. You shouldn't really have to say that, though. You should kind of be able to just allow things to evolve. But clearly he's got to a point where it's like, I'm gonna have to tell these ladies I need no drama, because he's had so much drama in this particular relationship.
Well, you know what, when he says you ain't nothing but a vulture, always hoping for the worst, waiting for me to F up. I think that's about cheating. I think this is someone who is accusing him of cheating, and he's like, look, I don't want any of that headache. Okay, and to your point, this could be where she really is paranoid.
Yes,
and
insecure.
Throwing things and very insecure, right? Or it could be just don't check me. Don't try and hold me accountable.
Don't try and hold me.
Let me gallivant and be free and go out about town and see who I want. And that's what he's calling drama.
Yeah. It could be either one. We just don't know.
It will be revealed, hopefully. So then he says, it goes into like the chorus bit, and he says, I'm chucking up them deuces. Yeah, I told you that I'm leaving. Deuces. I know you mad, but so what? I wish you best of luck. Thumbs up. And now I'm finna throw them deuces up. See ya. And he goes, I'm on some new SHIT.
Yep, ish.
I'm chucking my deuces up to her. I'm moving on to something better. No more try to make it work.
Yeah.
You made me want to say bye-bye.
Right. Okay.
Say
she made
bye-bye.
you.
With all her drama.
She was your fault, girl.
Negative. She's drama-full, just negative. Okay?
Push me away.
She pushed Chris away. And you know what? There's other girls that know what he needs.
Listen, that will keep it drama free, 100%.
Yes.
But doesn't this remind you? You made me wanna. Doesn't it remind you of make me wanna?
Yeah. It's just that here, I mean, Usher was very open with his cheating and with his wandering eye. He was very open and transparent. Here, Chris is kind of, maybe insinuating. We don't know, actually.
We don't know.
What we're getting is the picture of someone who's very toxic.
Yes.
But the writer's toxicity is leaking in as well. And where the toxicity is leaked in, I'll give you an example, is where he says, you'll regret the day when I find another girl that knows just what I need. She knows just what I need. And you know what? When you're walking away from a relationship, you don't have to start comparing
100%.
or saying, other girls wouldn't do this or other girls would be better.
100%.
That's when it's starts to be toxic.
And who are you really comparing to? You see, so then when we start to think about alluding to cheating or not being faithful, it's like, well, how do you know there are other girls who now, what have you been testing out and trying out? So yeah, there is toxicity leaking through there. And just the whole thing of waiting for things to sour before you realize it's not working. It says, no more trying to make it work. Well, bruv, that's on you. That's on you, because you never had to stick around trying. Yeah. No one told you had to stick around trying. From the time you saw this thing was not working, you could have said, all right, you know what, before we dislike one another, let's accept that. We just don't trust each other. The bedrock of a relationship is not here. There's no trust. We clearly don't really like each other. If I'm calling you a vulture, I don't really like and respect you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's part ways now whilst we still are moderately civil. But you've chosen to keep this thing going till it's got to the point where you don't like this woman for nothing. You ain't got nothing good to say. So that's on you. No one can make you do that. No one can make you stay in a relationship. So if you feel that someone's made you, you have to look at your own willpower, your own discipline, your own sense of self-worth. So that boils down to taking responsibility for yourself.
Yeah, and that's a sign that there's some toxicity in Chris or whoever's written this too. I mean, they're blaming it a lot on the woman, but I'm seeing some signs here of the guy or Chris's toxicity too. 100%. And you've also called that out too. Why wait until you're ripping each other apart at the seams to leave? Okay, so then he has just said, all the best, bye, and then we've got Tyga comes in with his verse, and he starts off with used to be Valentine's.
I love the
Gotta do it.
You gotta do it.
Gotta do it. Used to be Valentine's, together all the time. Thought it was true love, but women lie. So I see this as kind of like, women are always putting out diss tracks about men and dragging men. So I can't really fight them because women do it all the time. I never knew this song was such a man's anthem.
Yes.
Against women. It's like their own No Scrubs.
Yeah, it
by
was.
TLC.
It was, yeah.
Did you want to say anything?
No, let's...
yeah, it was. Next. Like, got anything else? No,
No,
no. Not,
look,
I've not
it,
got anything
it
else
is
for
what
you, love.
it is. They're dissing women on this track. Women lie. The reality is both men and women lie. But you know what? Like you say, let them have their time, because women have been doing this for years. We've been doing Heard It All before. Maybe this, maybe that. All the songs. We've heard all the songs against the men. Come true, men. We give you a little time. Yes, women lie. You're hurt. You're hurt. Come
Yes,
true. It's all
yeah.
right.
And they're blaming it a lot all on the woman.
It seems like on this, it is all blamed on the woman. And again, maybe it's true. There's a lot of Amber Heards out here. There's a lot of Amber Heards out here. Let's not get it twisted. So maybe it is true that this lady is actually just toxic. And unfortunately, they fell for it. And they tried to be nice. Again, they should never have stayed. And once you see someone's toxic, run. That's the lesson here. But
that's the lesson.
When you're young, you don't know. You're trying to give the
Yeah,
benefit of the doubt. People are lying to you. They're lying to you. You're all the people around you are telling you this is good for you. This is good for your career.
But my thing is, though, with this one is that women lie wasn't even relevant. Like, he just threw it in, because the bit before is thought it was true love.
Yeah, it's true.
But
it's
true. Women lie. Wait a minute, what's that?
Wait a minute,
maybe she thought it was true love. It just didn't work out, folks. Doesn't make her a liar. And I know it's a play on true love and then lie, truth and lie. So they had to throw that in. But it's like, whoa, you know, that's, and it's all women.
Yeah, you've just gone far, because at least Chris was only talking to the one woman saying she's a vulture. Now you're just saying we're all liars. But like I say, women have been doing this since the dawn of time. So you know what?
We can't
let the men have their little time. That is good. I think it's good for men to get stuff off their chest. It's therapy. No, men need to be more honest about their feelings. Listen, y'all women lie. You hurt us. Deuces to you. I feel like men need these types of songs to get the feelings off their chest, because a lot of men, from what I hear from other men, this is other men saying, it's not me saying, because I'm not a man, I don't know. A lot of men, I've heard Stephen Bartlett talk about this. It's difficult to express how you feel. I've heard Stephen Bartlett talking to Trevor Noah about this. It's hard sometimes to express how you feel, what's irking you, what's making you feel away. So Chris and Tyga out here doing it for the men. They getting some stuff off their chest. So you know
this
what?
Really is
it's all right.
The male breakup song.
Listen, we're all right. We're not mad at it. We might get mad when we dig into some stuff, but at this stage, I'm not mad at it. Have your time, because this lady's clearly done you dirty. You're feeling away. It's all right.
Yeah, I'm not hearing too much of what she's done, though. I'm just hearing drama. At least when the women write their songs, it's normally he cheated. That's normally what it is, right? He cheated on me. This one, I'm not quite hearing what exactly the woman has done, other than, okay, he said always thinking the worst, okay, and creating drama around that. Okay. Anyway, next. It's like I sent my love with a text 2 times. So, he said he sent her a text. He's giving an example, right? It's like I sent my love with a text 2 times. Called because I care, but I didn't get a reply. Okay. A bit sensitive. Maybe she was busy.
She might have been busy. That sounds
phone was battery
cool, because I
dead.
care. But yeah, I mean, people get busy. That's not a reason to really throw someone under the bus.
No.
2 times. I mean, people have called people much more times than 2.
Yes.
I mean, I know in my day, I've called people much more times than 2. So
yes, yeah. And I mean, if he only called 2, it was probably within the space of 5 minutes. You called once and you try again, and that's it. It's not like it was weeks and weeks of calling. But what we see here is that Tyga wants immediate pickups to his calls. That's important to him, okay? And he should have communicated that. Which
is okay. It's okay to have the expectation, but yeah, communication is key. It is key.
Should have said that. Then he goes, call because I care, but I ain't getting a reply. Trying to see eye to eye, but it's like we both blind. F it. Let's hit the club. I rarely sip, but pour me some. So he's like, I'm just gonna go to the club. That's how I'm gonna deal
I called you twice and you didn't pick up, so you know what? I'm just gonna go do some ratchet behavior. This does not show resilience.
No.
In emotional in your emotional stability. It doesn't really show resilient character here, because someone has not picked up twice and then you hit in the drink. Like, come on, like, I think There's a bit of work that needs to be done here to build that. Someone, it could be so many reasons. And now you've gone to the club, you're drinking your drink. One thing's going to lead to another. And then what's it going to be? Because she had an appointment, she had a nail appointment. They could take a while. Or she had to go and get her eyelashes done or whatever it was. Those appointments take time. You don't have your phone by your side. And you can't pick your phone up when you're getting your nails done. So many things, and all because of a lack of comms. You now hit the club, you're drinking your drink.
He's been driven to drink because she didn't answer the phone. And then he says, because when it's all said and done, I ain't gonna be the one that she can always run to. Then he really gets angry.
Goes in. Okay.
Probably because of the G goes, I hate liars. Whoa.
Wow.
Then he goes, F love, I'm tired of trying. My heart is big, but it beats quiet.
Oh, he's really sad.
He's
really sad.
He's really sad.
She's hurt him.
She's lied. He's got a thing with lying and calling. Okay. And it seems like he's really tried to open up his heart. Again, this is his side of the story. We've not heard her side of the story,
This is really
Then he says, I don't never feel like we vibing. And to your point, if you get to the point in a relationship where you feel like it's really just all wrong and you're complaining this much, it really is time to leave.
You don't feel like you're vibing. I mean, you're never like, come on.
There's never.
I mean, the essence of a relationship for me is that y'all are vibing.
Yeah.
Like, y'all can vibe.
And there may be times you're not.
Sometimes
but he said we never vibing.
We're never vibing. If you can't say we've got times when most times we're vibing, when you start a relationship, personally for me, I think you should always be vibing. And then by the time you vibe so much, you've built that connection, you're willing to work on it because the vibe has been vibing.
Maybe they were, and then it went downhill.
It went sour.
Because then he says, because every time we alone, it's an awkward silence. And I doubt it was always like that.
Yeah, true.
So leave your keys on the kitchen counter, love. Leave your keys on the kitchen counter. That's what he says.
He's saying, get out of here. Get out. We're not together anymore.
And then he even says, and give me back that ruby ring with the big diamond. It's over. What are you tripping for? I don't want to have to let you go. But baby, I think it's better if I let you know. There's a bit of back and forth here. There's like a nonchalance, like I don't care about you. Leave your thing leave the keys on the counter. Give me the stuff I gave you. I don't want to have to do this. Forget love. You're a liar. It's all over the place.
It's all over the place. Yeah. I don't want to have to do it, but you made me. You made me. You reduced me to this. I'm drinking, and I've got to take back the house and take back the stuff because you have driven me to this with your lack of vibe, and your lack of whatever trust and all the things.
And lying. I mean, lying.
And
is
you're
a big
lying.
Issue.
Lying is a big issue.
He's referenced lying a lot.
Yeah. Lying is a big issue. Lying is a very big issue, but you can spot lies very early. I feel like when someone is a liar, because he says you're a liar. When someone is because one thing, you might tell the odd lie, shouldn't really, but you may. But there's one thing to be a liar. That means that you lie. You just lie all the time. It's just
habit,
a
just
way
practice,
of being.
just your way.
You can kind of pick that up because if you meet someone and they tell you they work at Goldman Sachs when really they work, at Tesco. Not that there's anything wrong with that, by the by, but I'm just saying that's something where you'd say there's no need to lie about that. So why would you lie? So immediately when it's like small things, or like you say you're 6'5", and then when I meet you, you're really like 5'11", which is not a bad height. These are the things where when people lie, you're kind of like, why? Why would you lie about that? You say that you don't live with someone, and then I find out, you have a room share or something. Like those types of things. And so when people are lying about things that are not that deep or that you can look over, you should take that seriously, I think. I think people should take that more seriously than they do. I think people overlook those types of lies, but they shouldn't.
Well, okay, those are the lyrics of the song. And what we see is that we referenced this at the end. The song is really going back and forth between a vulnerability. So he talks about how his heart is big, but it beats quietly. But then ego, where it's like, get your stuff out my house, the keys on the kitchen floor, I don't really care about you. Oh, well, it's over. Do you think that that's a genuine emotional conflict, or is it more performative masculinity trying to hide pain?
I think it's the latter, because when the reaction here does sound very extreme, and I think whenever you see that sort of extreme, I don't care, just get out, coupled with then these moments, like you say, of vulnerability, like my heart is big but it beats so quiet, clearly there seems to be a disconnect with what the person really says. To be honest, actually, do you know what, Louise? I think it could be either or. I think when you see that, it could be either or. It could be, I'm pretending to be really emotional and really I'm just someone that only cares about myself. So I'll throw in lines like, but I really loved you. My heart is so big, to make myself look like I'm a human person with emotions when actually I'm not. So there is that element. But I think most times it's going to be, you're trying to, put up a guise of being someone that doesn't care. And, for men as well, men are not supposed to get hung up on ladies, like you're not supposed to get hung up on ladies. They call you a simp, they say you've been whipped, like you know how it goes. You're not supposed to, a woman is not supposed to be able to impact you that much. A woman that you're dating, I'm assuming they're not married here, or anything like that, so a woman you're dating should not really be able to impact you that much. The reality is that relationships can be tough, and they do impact people emotionally. And the more honest I think we are about that, I think the better. I think for a lot of men, because you're not supposed to get so caught up in a lady. You're not supposed to.
Where does that myth come from, though?
I don't really know. I think it's just because as a man, you're supposed to be handling business. You're supposed to be making your money. The things that should bother you are the things that impact your money and your career and those sorts of things, not necessarily, your connection with women. I don't know where it comes from, but I think it is rooted in women, traditionally are the ones that stay at home, care for the children, nurture the family. They need their man, they need their children to be happy and all this. Whereas men typically just focused on, bringing home the bacon. And so as a man, your focus and the things that should impact you are the things that are related to your status, what you're bringing home, your paycheck. And the things that should really impact you less are things like your emotions and how you feel towards a woman and stuff like that. Because that stuff is less important, and it's like a distraction. It's just a distraction from making your money and getting out there. It weakens you. It's going to, mean that you're not focused on the job. So I think there's roots in that. Obviously, men have evolved now. I think a lot of men have evolved to realize that, men have emotions and it's important to express them. But here it does seem like there's a lot of bravado going on when really the impact is quite harsh, especially when you start to reflect on all the things you've done for the person. Leave your keys on the kitchen counter, i.e. you're in my place, give me back the ring, and you're even reciting the red ruby with the diamond, like you really made an effort to buy this nice thing. So you're going through all the things you did. That does show that, you've been hurt. And that's normal, isn't it? But yeah, I think it's the latter. I think it's male bravado covering up the fact that you've just been hurt. You called this lady, she didn't pick up, you didn't feel, the respect from her, and it hurt your feelings.
And it sounds like he's been having issues with the relationship for a while. There's a communication breakdown. He said that when they're together, it's awkward silence and things like that. So that seems sort of all built up, and now he's had enough.
He's had enough.
My thing is, I think it's fine to say, I've had enough, it's over. But I've spoken about the language of repair and the importance of learning that in the Will Smith episode, for instance. And here, there's also a language of ending things, right? And there's a language of dealing with the end of something.
Yes.
And this song is depicting an approach that is not healthy.
No.
And that approach is to have high conflict and just cut it off and sever it and start to now actually dismiss the person that you once shared something with and that you once loved. And I think that approach of breakups is normalized.
Yeah.
And I'm always quite impressed when I see a breakup where they had resolve, they spoke through the issues, they amicably and mutually agreed, this won't work, we shouldn't go any further. So how do you think this is glorifying or not glorifying that, because I think it doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be you're emotionally invested or you're completely emotionally detached and you sever it. there is something in between that's a bit healthier. So yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think this song is definitely glorifying. It's like, deuces, bye, I'm gone. See you later. I can't take this anymore. I think you're right. There are a lot of songs that do glory, like Get Out the Door. Even, Beyonce had her song. I can't remember the name of it. I
To
think
the
it was
left,
called To the Left,
irreplaceable.
Irreplaceable. Don't ever think you're irreplaceable. To the left, get out of my yard. I bought you the things. I bought you the car. I bought you the whip. Come back. Get your taxi. Don't let the door hit you. Go get your taxi. So we have all these songs where we're just like, bye, get out. And the thing is that what these songs do is they don't share the reality of a relationship breakdown leading to a breakup. There's a really good film I watched. I think it's called The Marriage. It's with Scarlett Johansson and I can't remember the male actor, but it really is all about the breakdown of a marriage.
Yes.
And I found that film so excellent and so moving. It moved me because it just depicted just the little things that caused the breakdown of a relationship. And it was nothing dramatic. It was nothing big. And it was so sad because it's like you can see you've got two people who love each other, and I personally feel like you can work it through. I feel there's nothing God cannot redeem. I think you can work it through. I always think you can, but you could just see the little moments of just miscommunication or just little things that just led to that marriage dissolving, and you can still see the love they had for each other and their family unit they'd built up. And so I think, yeah, these types of songs, what they do is they paint this unrealistic view that when a relationship breaks down, it's because one or the other party did something. And most times the person singing a song is saying it was never me.
Yes.
I'm never the party.
Yeah.
It's always, you're always the party.
Yeah.
Because even when someone cheats, there's sometimes things that lead to that cheating. It can be that you've been consistently accusing them, so there's no trust. It can be that they're not being fulfilled in the relationship in some way. Now they should voice that, but then if they can't voice that, that shows that there's something going on.
Or if they have and it's been ignored or dismissed.
The reality is a relationship is two. There's never one, right? It's always two people.
Sounds like a children's song.
I know, 2 + 2. No, there's always one and one is two. There's always two people. So it's never, in these songs, it's always, I'm the victim. You're the one that did it. Bye, because you did it. But it's never like that, because it's a relationship. It's called a relationship because it's two people relating. So there's been something in the way that you have been relating that has led to we're not vibing, awkward silence, someone feeling they have to lie, or someone needing to, all these things. And so we have to be able to take responsibility. But in these songs, that's not what we want to do. We don't want to take responsibility. I think we need more songs with a person saying, you know what, this broke down. I can appreciate that I did this and that. And I can appreciate that you did this and that. But together, that combo, it doesn't seem to be working. How do we arrive? How did we get here? That more honest view of and also there's emotion and upset because how did we get here? Most times in relationships end, we don't know how we got here. And what people will do is rather than sit, and we talk about the language of repair, sit and go, oh my gosh, this relationship is so sour. And this can be a friendship, this can be relationships in family. This has become so sour. How did we get here? And really sit in the feelings and really reflect and look. We don't want to do that. So we just say, it's just because you're a liar and this, a vulture, and we close the door. I think a lot of people do that. And I think more and more we're seeing with the makeups to breakups that we see with celebs. I mean, it's ridiculous out here. It's just encouraging, like you said, this unhealthy cut. So it does glorify it, this unhealthy cut, where what the reality is that there's a journey to the point of, there's a conflict build up. I was listening to a lady and I can't remember her name, but she deals a lot with conflict in war zones. She deals a lot with that. And she was talking about how you can use that to build your leadership skills. It was like a leadership webinar. And she was talking about how, there's a conflict initiation, and that's when we can't see it. But it's there. There's all these little things that we don't talk about, we don't say, but the conflict is building. Most times when we start to react is when the conflict is already at peak. It's already at peak. The person's already lying. They're already not picking up their phone. They're already cussing you to their friends. They're already doing everything.
And that's when this song kind of comes in, isn't it? At the peak. Literally. But we've not seen the background. What led to it?
But then there's the bit on the way down the hill, which is how do we now resolve and come to the conclusion, whether that's going to be that we find a truce. So in a war zone, there'll be a truce, or we make a decision that we're going to, and we're just going to continue to work through whatever the outcome of that. So if it's a breakup, okay, we're going to keep trying to be amicable because we've made a decision now to break up, but we're going to try and be respectful. Just like, when countries are at war, we made a decision on how we're going to move forward, and we're going to do our best to enact that decision. So yeah, I think these songs could do better if they showed the full spectrum. But then again, it's not as catchy, and it's hard to put that in a song. So you just throw your deuces up, moving on to something better.
But it goes back to what I was saying, where it doesn't have to be either we're together or we're enemies.
Yes.
There is that space in between, and I'm quite surprised actually, not just by this song, but a lot of songs that suddenly become very dismissive of the other person, and as though they're worthless and meaningless. And to say, leave your keys on the kitchen counter, get out my house, give me everything I've given back, it's not a good way to break up with someone. And it does indicate that there was toxicity in you too, right? Because of how you dealt with it. And that binary thinking, that black and white thinking of either it was me or it was you, and not what you described, where there was both parties played a part and it was a number of things perhaps over time, is a sign of emotional immaturity.
Yes, it is.
Because as we get older and we evolve emotionally in our emotional intelligence and whatnot, we're now able to see the bigger picture
100%.
and the context. It's not based around what's called the drama triangle, where someone has to be the villain, someone has to be the victim, and someone has to come and rescue you.
Yeah.
And in this song, the rescuer is the new girl.
It's the new girl
that
villain knows how to keep it drama free. Yeah.
And the victim is the guy. And it just isn't helpful, because what Chris or Tyga might find is that their next relationship is going to be the same if they don't address some of the things that you spoke about.
Well, has Chris found himself in a stable relationship? I'm not sure if he has. I don't know his current romantic status. I know he's got a child, but I don't know if he's found himself in anything stable yet. So,
and neither's Tyga.
So there you go. So that would indicate that there is an emotional maturity. And again, we've talked about young stars. Chris started young, and we've talked about how that there can be some gaps, and that can really lead you to you're not emotionally developed enough to handle maybe some of the things that come with these scenarios. And in these relationships, I mean, Chris had a very high profile relationship with Rihanna, and I believe this is where this song came in, wasn't it? It was off the back of that high profile relationship. And I remember there's someone I know or used to know who worked, I think it was for Nighttown, or it was a store like that, but they used to see them come in a lot as a couple. And they always talked about how bizarre their relationship was, like very passionate, passionate, like always all over each other. But then one minute they'd be like fighting, the next minute they'd be all over each other. Very passionate, very, up and down. But they were both quite young, and probably both not really in understanding how to handle those emotions. And the song, I think, does reflect some of that.
And I think we only do ourselves a disservice if we don't look at our part that we played, because look, we go on to repeat the same patterns. It looks like the same pattern that maybe Chris and Rihanna had has been replicated in future ones. So yes, the other person may have done things wrong, but have you first acknowledged and processed the things that you did wrong?
Exactly.
And established a plan to not do it again.
And
because we're not meant to keep repeating it. We're meant to find a way to do it again, and it's possible to change.
It is possible. It's the plan. Established plan. I think people need to because the thing, you hear these songs, there's like Deuces, Get Out, and it sounds like you're being very logical, but you're not. You're being very emotional, and we need to move ourselves from the place of emotion into a place of like being very logical. Like, okay, this is the part I played. This is where it's going wrong. Here's my plan of action, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with actually writing down like, okay, I need to start doing this first. Then I'm going to move on to this. I'm going to speak to this person or read this book or do this thing. And there's nothing wrong with having a little plan of action to end a relationship as well, because, there's someone else you're going to impact. So if you really feel like you have to end it, there's still nothing wrong with sitting down and spending a bit of time considering how that's going to
But
happen.
you know what? One can only do that when you're fully aware of your emotions and what
Yeah.
you're feeling, why you're feeling them, and then you can move to that place of logic.
Yeah.
Because we see in this song, she had his keys, so there was clearly a close connection and a close bond. He must have
100%.
trusted her a lot, unless he was just a complete fool and gave his keys to. Well,
Someone
he's
he
calling
didn't
her a liar
trust.
and a vulture now, but
Exactly.
there must have been trust and connection there.
100%.
And if there wasn't, then the real issue is, why is he giving his keys to people
100%.
he doesn't know, who
Exactly.
he can't trust, who are liars and vultures? If there was love, then it doesn't mean that you now have to switch to such hostility and
Yes.
dismissiveness just because now it's not worked out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, moving into the last question. Tyga says women lie, and it's pretty much a global thing. Okay, he doesn't say this one woman lies. He says women just lie. Okay, and he almost frames dishonesty as like inherently a female
Yeah.
trait. Okay, and I think that this is reinforcing um toxic gender stereotypes. And I don't want to just put this all on Deuces, because we've already said we've seen this repeated in many
Yeah.
songs. So do you think we should be listening to breakup songs, considering they do tend to reinforce the negative stereotypes we have about that opposite sex?
Yeah.
So if it's a woman singing about a breakup with a man, she's reinforcing how bad
Yeah.
men are. All men cheat, all men lie.
Yeah.
If it's a man doing it, he's doing the same.
Do I think we should be listening to it? But you know what? I am going to keep it all the way real. Sometimes you just feel a certain way and you just need an outlet for how you're feeling. I know that there was a time when if I had a breakup, I'd be saying, I'm not going to cry no more. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to shed no tears. We all know that we all played the song. And in a way, it was a momentary fix. It made you feel a bit better. So I'm not going to say, don't listen to the song if for a moment it makes you
it makes you
feel empowered and you feel a bit better about. I mean, I'm not going to say
stay
that. I
there.
can empathize with it. I would never do it now. But that's because, to your point, Louise, I've moved beyond that state of, emotional maturity. I've moved beyond that now. I'm in a place where I can recognize my part and take responsibility. So I think that if you were in that place, I'm not mad at you. Do what you got to do so that you ain't going around talking bad about people and hurting people. You do what you got to do. Listen to whatever songs, do whatever you need to do. But like you say, don't stay there. Move forward. And I do think that if you've had a breakup and you continue to listen to these songs that, they push misogyny or whatever it is, you're in a vulnerable emotional state. You will find yourself connecting with these lyrics. You'll find yourself connecting, and it will start to color and shape your thought processes, because your mind you're in a vulnerable state. I think we have to recognize when we're in a vulnerable state, what we really need is, things that are going to fill us with wisdom and, point us to emotional stability. And like you say, Louise, push us from that place of extreme emotion into a place of being rational. So we need things that are actually a lot more rational and a lot less emotional in those moments. That's what I would say. So should we be listening to these songs when we've had a bad breakup? No, I don't really think we should. I don't think this music is a type of music that is gonna help us. I think what we should be listening to is more material that is getting us to reflect on ourselves.
Even if she was the worst person to you, okay, there was still a part you played in either sustaining it,
enabling,
or contributing to it directly. It's usually one of the other. Either you allowed it to continue, you sustained it in some way, or you yourself were triggering it, or contributing it, or stoking the fire somehow.
And the problem is that you'll listen to this music, it'll make you feel better in the moment. You'll be like, yeah, I agree. But like you say, Louise, when you don't now address your part, you go on to another relationship and it becomes a self-fulfilling thing, because in that relationship, you're still doing the same, you're still contributing in the same way, or you're still sustaining in the same way. So now that relationship now also adds to your data, that women are liars, women are this, women are that. You move on to another relationship. So you're adding all this negative data because you have, and you're using that now to say, this is true. What I'm saying is true, but you're building it yourself. And if you were to sit down and reflect, you'll see that just like you have flaws, you have positives, you have negatives, you have some good things and bad things. Any woman you meet also is going to be the same. She's going to have flaws. She's going to have positives, negatives. She's going to have all the good things, all the bad things. And so when you can just see it from a really rational place, that's going to help you to not find yourself in these negative, toxic, dysfunctional relationships. And I think the sooner you get to rational after emotional breakup, the better. So I say, don't go to the breakup music, but I can empathize.
But you know what we kind of support and champion instead of getting to the rational phase? We support the bashing, bash the opposite sex, and then go out and find someone else. Go out to the club, just like
go to the club.
Go out to the club, drink the worries away, and just find another person.
You'll find someone else.
Yeah. And the truth is, that's not helping our friend. You know, if we're saying you're the best, because we weren't in the relationship with them. We don't know if there are things they need to look at. It may have been a lot to do with the other person and what they did or didn't do, for sure. But what part can your friend own, or what part can you own and look at? Because it only helps you in the end. I was watching this amazing interview of Jamelia. And I
I started watching that.
So good.
I love Jamelia.
I've forgotten what it's called. I think it's called Let's Talk or something.
Yeah, it's Let's Talk. I can't remember what the guy's name is, but the caption is like
talk.
Yes, or
something like that.
See if I can find
and
it.
I love her, and I was really moved by this interview. But something that stood out to me was her first relationship. She was very young. I mean, it's criminal that the guy, I think she was 16, he was 24, and he was like her manager.
I haven't even watched that part of it. I've just started.
Oh, really?
So I've just started with her history.
So something that struck me was she was 16 and he was 24, and he was her manager. So there was an age gap and also a power dynamic here going on. And that first relationship, I just thought, gosh, like, what could she have done? She was so young. There was nothing she could have done. And she shares a lot about her upbringing, and it all makes sense. The pieces of the puzzle all tie together. She shares a lot about not getting validation and affirmation from her dad. And then also, I think, just again, being famous young, and being in an industry where you're very vulnerable, all those things combined made sense as to how that relationship happened. And he was abusive. She ended up getting pregnant at like 18. Sorry if I'm giving away the whole interview.
Well, you are, but it's all right.
Watch it, folks. It's so good. But then she's now older, and she's having another breakdown. I think it's her second marriage. She wasn't married to this first guy.
No, she
gets married again.
One marriage. She has one marriage to the footballer, Daniel Byfield.
Yeah, she gets married. She gets married to footballer, but she gets married again. So it's her second marriage. Yeah, where she has, I think, 2 children with this person, and he left her when she was pregnant. He just abandoned her, and she talks a lot about how it basically plunged her into a deep depression. I don't
think she was married to that guy, the one that left her.
She was.
Oh, really?
She was. Yeah, she was. They were married. Yeah, and she talks about how her daughters just nursed her back and how painful it was. And it makes sense because this is yet another abandonment. But then she said something. She said she thought this guy was it. She'd found the one. And then she says that they got married very quickly. Within, I think, 4 or 5 months, they'd met and married.
Right.
And I thought to myself, had she really done the work after all the breakups? And listen, I absolutely love Jamelia.
Yes.
And we all mess
love
up.
Her.
We all make mistakes. We both absolutely love her. But I'm just using her as an example to say getting married quickly can work.
Yes.
But I would say if we know that relationships and affirmation from men or women is like an Achilles heel for us, or it's linked to a past trauma, it's always safer to err on the side of caution and take our time a bit. And I was 100%. Like, I wish she was my friend. I wish I could have shared with her, just take your time with this, because you've been married once, you've been in really a toxic and an abusive relationship from a young age, and you had an absent dad who really did not pick up the role of the dad he should have. And I wondered in that moment, had she done all, the reflection we're talking about, the work that's needed, had she really done all of that after those relationship breakdowns, so that, not just so that you can exit a relationship when it's time, but so that you can tell who's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can navigate the decision making of who's right with caution and care. And one may do all of that and the person is
And
still
still,
abusive,
yeah.
and that's fine, but at least I took my
Yeah.
time, I observed. We've spoken about this in previous
Yeah.
episodes. I observed consistency in the character, and I have tested, this love has been tested and the character has been tested.
Yeah.
So like I said, 5 months can work. There are people who have met within 5 months and they're still together.
Yeah.
But that is under certain conditions.
It's under certain
If the
conditions.
condition is lots of past relationships, relational trauma,
Children.
already got children, been divorced, father wounds, or she has mother wounds too,
Yeah.
then maybe that 5 month approach might not be best.
Yeah, it might not
and
be
this is
best.
the exact thing we're saying. We've got to start normalizing, rather than after the breakup, forget you, I'm going out to find another person, or just staying in the depression or lamenting phase. Rather than normalizing that, we've got to start seeing it as an invitation to connect with ourselves and learn more about ourselves, to put things in place that can actually change stuff for us going forward.
100%. And I think, to the point of Jamelia, I can definitely empathize with how it was hard for her, because when you have children, that does take up a lot of your mind space. It takes up a lot of your time and your emotional bandwidth. So it's hard to find the space, and she's trying to raise a new baby. She's got children she's trying to raise. She's going through all the kind of hormonal changes that happen when you have a child. It's very turbulent, tough times. And once you find yourself on even footing, I can understand how you might just move on. Like I'm even
no, but at the time she met this guy that left her, she had two children who were not babies.
Yeah, but I can still understand that once you find some sort of even footing, you've got your children, you're moving on, life is okay, they're thriving, you can forget, or you can maybe put it on the back burner to prioritize that self-work.
That's true.
And so I think
absolutely
that's where, I would say, to your
you're
point,
more vulnerable.
you're more vulnerable. So especially with children, I think you're much more vulnerable. So you have to keep in mind, have I done this work? And this is where I always ask you all the time, because you do so much of this work, but like, how do you build that muscle that when you see these triggers, it reminds you, oh, that triggered me, gotta keep working, as opposed to everything's good now, it's all chilled, it's all, and then now something comes and it rocks you, or this wonderful person comes along and they're fulfilling all the needs, and you forget. It's like J-Lo. I always think of J-Lo when I think about this. You forget, like, oh, this wonderful thing's come along, but there's still all this work that I said I was gonna do that I've never done. Because then all you do is go through the same relationship, and then you'll be lamenting about the work, but you should have done the work. You told us you were doing the work 20 years ago, but you keep forgetting, because every time something good comes along, you forget the work. You know what I mean? So,
and it feels nice, doesn't it?
It
it feels nice. You've got dopamine, you've got, is it
oxytocin?
Yeah,
it's all there.
All hormones are there, and if you have been without that for a while, because maybe you felt low, you felt depressed, when that comes rushing into your system, gosh, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
But when we go to the gym, if we want to change our body comp, we don't think it's going to happen overnight.
Exactly.
People are more willing to go to the gym, change their body comp. They'll find the time with children, and this isn't shade. This isn't shade, okay? But they will find the
I wish I had that willpower
to go to, not you, everyone else. But no, they will go to the gym and invest time into changing their body comp, but not their mind and their heart comp. So I think we've just got to reassess what we're prioritizing.
100%.
The best thing we can invest in is our inner self. And a lot of people are investing in the outer self, and that is very important, especially if you're unhealthy, like you've got some medical issues and whatnot. We've got to do that. But the inner self is what is going to make everything last and be
100%.
sustainable. So we've got to recognize it takes time. Because just as changing our physical appearance, if we want to get muscle, takes time and investment and consistency. So just changing the inner life, and we can't do it alone.
I think
just speaking as Black women, we do a lot of stuff alone.
Yeah,
and the truth is that this can't be done alone.
Yeah.
And we need a support system.
100%.
Yeah, you were going to say something.
I was going to say that, and I always come back to this, but I think one thing that should always help is someone like Jamelia. She had children. If you know that growing up, there was a gap for you as a child, the one thing I think, and this is the thing that always pushes me, is I look at my children and I think, oh, wow, you know, the fact of the matter is we're just doing damage control, right? Because we're not perfect parents, right? So they were there. Your child will always have something to say probably that you did that wasn't right. But we've got to think about the damage control. Like if you know you've grown up saying, I had a neglectful parent, I had some emotional challenges because of my upbringing, there should always be that thing in your mind that goes, you know what, am I continuously getting better? Because I don't want to have my child grow up and say the same thing. I don't want them to experience the same thing. So that's almost like, it's like God give, it's like, for me, that's like a blessing from God, especially having daughters. So she had daughters and I have a daughter. To be real, I never really thought I would have girls. I didn't even know if I really wanted to have girls. I think I wanted more boys because I thought they were easier emotionally, knowing how I was growing up, but God gave me a girl. So now I'm always thinking, oh wow, like is she gonna grow up with this that I had? Is she gonna? So I'm always thinking about how I can be better myself so that I'm not putting these things on her. So yeah, that's one way. If you need an easy way or a visual way, I think that's one thing to consider that would always help you to keep your heart and mind focused in terms of your development.
Self-development, yeah. And, you know, we both recognise, for everyone listening, that it's not easy.
Not at all.
But this is why we cannot do it alone. We must not do it alone.
100%.
All right. We're going to wrap up. Any highlights for you? Any key takeaways?
Do you know what? Really key takeaway from this one for me is just we need to do the work. I think we really have to focus on our hearts and minds. These songs are fun. Don't get me wrong. Deuces, it was a fun song. It was all fun. But when we strip away, because bear in mind, Chris Brown is a real young man with a real life and real children and real, you know, this is real. These are real people going through all these things. When we strip away the fun element and the, you know, the fact it's a song and we dance to it and whatever, the reality is that, you know, there is a something that we're pushing if we don't really reflect, which is we can just move on from challenging scenarios. And we can't just move on from challenging scenarios. There has to be an intentional, deliberate stopgap. And I think we've got to keep doing it to the point where we build, like I say, build the muscle, like you said, Louise, about going to the gym. Every time something challenging happens, we've got to have this thing that we default to, which is, I'm going to actually take a look at myself. I'm going to reflect on where I played a part and I'm going to push to do better. And it could be something small. It might not be a big emotional relationship. It could be a breakdown at work. It could be maybe you have a breakdown on the road, you know, when you're in traffic and you get worked up. I used to get real worked up in traffic and I had to sit down and go, girl, you keep getting worked up. What's going on here? So that you're always improving. And so I think that's what I take away from this. Like, it's good to say deuces and all of that and make light of it. But at the heart of this, I think we have to really be able to reflect on where we are and move forward healthily from challenging situations.
Yeah, and I'd add to that the language of repair. We've got to start learning how to resolve, repair, and wrap things up. Right. If it goes left, if it doesn't go well, in a non-black and white way, where you're either the villain or the victim. And this links to what you were saying, where we can actually recognize, okay, well, what part did I play? And recognize, you know, of course, the part the other person played, because it will only do us service in the end. So thanks for listening, everyone. It's been great to talk about this Deuces song. We both loved it when it came out. But we will see you in the next episode of Lyrically Speaking. Deuces! Deuces! Deuces!